Hi everybody. Sorry about that. It was working just fine and then all of a sudden it paused. Let's see. Well, thanks for joining me. It's Kasha Dupuy here from the Niagara Public Library. And hopefully we're getting all of our technical difficulties out of the way before we get started. I'm just watching my the things kind of telling me what's going on. And we're kind of flickering, so we'll do our best to make sure that this is going to go today. And if not, don't worry. I'll try my best to be back, and if not, I will record this as a video, and then I'll upload it to YouTube. And I'm not sure why it's giving me issues. Oh, well, okay. Someone said it's all good, so that's good. Amazing. So again, welcome. It's week 17 of STEAM Storytime, if you can believe that. 17 weeks of STEAM. That's awesome. So today we're going to be talking about engineering and what an engineer does. And we're going to be reading a really cool book about someone named Rosie who wants to be and is actually already kind of an engineer. So it's a really fun book, and hopefully my internet will be fine throughout this. It's so funny. It just decides to be problems on like Mondays and Wednesdays when I go live. I don't know. Okay, so before we get started, just a few little things. My boys are running around. They're actually playing upstairs today. We might hear them, we might not. Again, it will just make it more exciting. And just like all the other weeks, my dogs are around. So Finn and Evie might pop in to say hi on the camera. And if not, that's okay too. Hopefully they just sleep instead of play with each other very loudly. So again, if you don't know what STEAM Storytime is, it's a special story time that talks all about, or focuses on ideas about science, technology, engineering, or environment, art, and math. So that's what STEAM is, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be actually talking about one of the main ones. We're going to be talking about engineering today. So let's flip the camera over so you can see me. Hi, everybody. How's it going? So again, my name is Kasha Dupuy. I'm from the Niagara-on-the-Lake Public Library, and this is STEAM Storytime. One more thing, if you see behind me right there, that if you've signed up for our summer reading program, that's going to be in the next kit. So yes, that's growing a bean in a bag with an observation chart, just like a scientist would do. So that is what that is, in case it's there. I don't want to move it. I thought about taking it down because I want the sunlight to constantly be able to help it grow. So we're just going to leave it there today. There'll be some extra background. So let's get started talking about engineering and engineers with our book today. And again, if you are joining us and you want me to say hi in the comments and I will say hi to you. Yeah, over the camera. Last week was great. We had so many people join us. So I hope we have a bunch this week as well. So this book that we're going to read today is called Rosie Reverie, Engineer, and it's a great book. It's a whole series about this. And this one is written by Andrea Beattie and illustrated by David Roberts. So Andrea Beattie is the author. She wrote the book, and David Roberts did the illustrations for the book. And this book was published in 2013 by Abrams Books. So thank you very much for letting us use one of your amazing books in our STEAM Storytime today. I'm very excited to share this with our STEAM Storytime watchers, listeners. Yeah. Okay, that's Rosie right there. And that's her name, Rosie. And it says Rosie Reverie, Engineer. And the cool part about this, see all that, these squares and stuff, this is called graph paper. And that's something that engineers use to draw out their ideas. Look, there's an idea right there. It's a helicopter being driven by a birdie. Rosie Reverie, Engineer by Andrea Beattie, illustrated by David Roberts, published in 2013 by Abrams Books for Young Readers, New York. Thank you again for letting us use this awesome book today. Okay. Oh, I'm going too far one way. This is the story of Rosie Reverie, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. I can move this way a little bit more. There we go. Whoa, look at all that stuff. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. So look, she's building and crafting and creating and thinking up really cool stuff and making it happen. I think that's what an engineer does. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser, and helium pants. So there's a machine that makes hot dogs, and those are pants filled with helium. Do you know what helium is? Have you seen a balloon that floats in the sky on a string? That's what fills up those pants. So they're like floating pants. Hi, Everly. I made the owl from the other day. That's amazing. I would love to see pictures. Yes, if you have pictures, send them to me. And hi, Jack. I'm sure Jack's there too. But hi, Everly. That's amazing. Okay. The uncle she loved most was Zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. Look at that crazy hat. That's awesome. And look at her uncle. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud. But Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears. All to the horror of Rosie Reverie, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. I love it, Fred hooted. Oh, I truly I do. But Rosie Reverie knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day, kept her dreams to herself. So I think he thought it was such an awesome, great idea that he laughed a little bit, and she thought maybe that he was laughing at her idea. Let's see what happens. Hi, Declan and Paige. How's it going, guys? Thanks for joining in again today. So nice to see people join and say hi to them. I miss you guys all. Okay, look at that. Oh, did I miss a page? Nope. And that's how it went until one autumn day. Her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams. That's her aunt, great-great-aunt. And she used to build airplanes just like that. Her name's Rose. That night, as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, no, not I. But questions are tricky, and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. Let's see what happens. She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheesecopter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. So she's trying her idea. She made a cheesecopter, but she doesn't sound too confident. She's a little worried it's not going to work. Let's see. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The helio cheesecopter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. I made things crash over there. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Reverie, who thought, oh no, never, not ever again will I try to build something or to sputter or spin or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and I will never will I be a great engineer. Poor Rosie. It's not nice when someone laughs at you, but I think she's going to explore why they're laughing, so let's see what happens. She turned around to leave, but then Great-Great-Aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close, and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try. This great flop is over. It's time for the next. Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. I failed, said dear Rosie. It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The Cheesecopter crashed. Yes, said her great aunt, it crashed. That is true. But first, it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew. Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and work and on to the next. She handed a notebook to Rosie Reverie, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. So it's saying keep trying and keep trying, and that's what engineers do. They keep trying stuff over and over again, and scientists do that too. It's important to keep trying, not give up. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rose tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear, to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. Look at what she's doing it now, and it says, we can do it. That's important. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Reverie. So look at all those inventions that her classmates made up. So look, it's a whole class of engineers, and we'll talk about what an engineer is in a minute. And it's okay that their inventions don't work all the time. Yeah, they have to just keep trying and making them work and try different things in different ways. Yeah, it's part of being an engineer. So I love that book. That's one of my favorites. It's part of a whole series of different books, but this one was called Rosie Reverie, Engineer, by Andrea Beatty and illustrated by David Roberts. And it was published in 2013 by Abrams Books from New York. So thank you very much for letting us use that. There's also one called Iggy Peck Architect. You should read that too. Maybe we'll read that another day. Okay, so we read about Rosie, and here's some noise. We read about Rosie, who wants to be an engineer, and she kind of already is, because engineers are people that solve problems. So let me switch over. I have a special page that I wanted to show you with some ways that we can talk about what engineers do. So an engineer is anybody who wants to know how things work and why they do that. So have you ever made something, or you're looking at something and you're wondering, how is that made? How did they do that? Well, then you are already thinking like an engineer. Have you ever built something out of Lego or blocks or anything like that, and tried it again and again and tried it to get to do something like specific, a very special job? You're being an engineer. Also, an engineer is someone who dreams up a lot of the things you use every day, from toys to tools. So if you look around your room right now, maybe talk to the parent or the person that's in the room with you, and look at all the things around the room that people or engineers would have had to make. So if you're watching this on a computer or a phone or an iPad, an engineer made that. If you have a car, an engineer made that. If you're sitting at a table or on a couch or on a carpet, an engineer had to make that. If you're in a house, an engineer needed to build or at least plan out how to build your house. So engineers, there are so many different kinds of engineers, and they all have different kinds of jobs. They can be in computers, they can be in architecture, so that's like house building. There's environmental engineers, and that means someone who takes care of nature or sees how nature works. There are hundreds and thousands of types of different engineers. So you can be an engineer in pretty much anything. But the main job of an engineer, no matter what kind of engineer someone is, their job is to problem solve. So they look at the questions of why, they look at the questions of how, and they look at the problems that need to be solved. So you can do that. Most of us do that every single day, right? We talk about and we learn about and we look at our world. So I'm actually going to share 2 videos. We're not going to watch them now, but these are ones you can watch later today if you want to learn about engineers. They're both from YouTube. We're going to share them in the comments. And they are 2 awesome videos that explain what engineers do. Yeah, so we're going to share them. You don't have to watch them now, but if you want to learn more about them, that's where you can do that. And you can also send me questions too, and I'll try my best to answer them. But what I am going to show you, we're going to flip over the camera, and I'm going to show you how to build a hovercraft. So something that kind of flies just like Rosie did. Yeah, so this is not quite just like Rosie's Cheesecopter, although I thought about making a Cheesecopter, but I don't think we could do that in our short steam story time. But if you want to make something like this, you need this kind of stuff. So let me show you how this works. So it's a paper plate with a hole, and there's a straw that goes inside the balloon, and then the balloon is stuck to the paper with tape. And I didn't have any fancy duct tape. I had to use plain old gray duct tape. But the cool thing about being an engineer too is that you can decorate this afterwards. So what you do is you blow air into this hole. So I'm going to do that really quick. Ready? And you fill the balloon, and this floats around the table. Very cool. So if you want to build a balloon hovercraft, you will need a paper plate. You will need a pair of scissors. You'll need a straw. Now, I already cut my straw. I'm just using the rest of what I have. And you're going to need a balloon, just like so. And I'll show you the hovercraft again when I flip the camera over. Oh, and of course, you need some tape. So it's very good to get duct tape or something that holds air in really well. Okay, so what you're going to do first is take your scissors, or if you have a pencil, and this is probably good for an adult to do, and find the middle of your plate and just poke through to make a hole, just like that. Then put the plate on the table, take your straw, and put it through just like that. Now, we don't need all of the straw, and actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to flip it this way, and I'm going to cut right about there. So you need like an inch or 2 of a straw, just like so. Okay, so that will help the air go through the plate into the balloon. So you're going to take your balloon, and oops, I ripped my balloon. Luckily, I have a whole bunch more here. Okay, so you're going to open your balloon a little bit, and what you can do is blow it up just to like expand it so it'll fit better. So just like that. Then you're going to put the balloon over top of the straw, just like so. There we go. Now you need some tape. So you're going to take some tape, and you're going to wrap this tape around the balloon and stick it onto the plate. Now, you probably need a lot of tape for this. I'm not going to do the whole thing because it took me a little bit of time, which is why I give you these STEAM challenges to do at home, because you can spend as much time as you want. And true engineers spend a lot of time on the things they're doing to make sure that they work well. So, but what I'm going to show you first is I took some tape and I ripped it in half. You can do that however you wish. And then you're going to start to stick this onto the plate, just like so. And you're going to go around and around and around and make sure that it is attached really well to the plate. And once you're covered like this or more, you're going to take the tape and wrap it around the top of the balloon here. So a little bit up to the straw. So see if I bend my balloon from the first one I made, the tape goes kind of pretty high up. But you have to do that when you're testing it. Yeah, so when you blow into the balloon, afterwards right here, if some air is escaping, it means you need more tape. Yeah, so you're just going to keep going and attach and attach and attach and put lots and lots of tape all the way around your balloon. Just like so. Now I'm rushing a little bit. You don't have to rush that much because you'll have lots of time to be an engineer. But I don't want you you know, to get bored watching me do this or anything. So you're going to go do lots and lots of tape all the way around that, and that creates a hovercraft. And they work by blowing through this hole, and you put all the air into the balloon, and the air can only escape back through this hole. So it pushes out really fast because the pressure on top of the balloon pushes it through the straw, and it actually makes the plate kind of lift and kind of glide over the table. Yeah, pretty awesome, right? And then you can decorate this however you wish. So I'm going to show you one more time how that works. I'm actually going to switch back to my engineers page just so you can see one more time what they do. And I know there's lots of words on there, but there's also some pictures. So see if you can look at those engineers and maybe figure out what engineer does what. I know there's an engineer that has a map, if you guys can find that one on the screen. Yeah, there's a guy, an engineer man that has a map. There's also an engineer that's wearing a green hat, and she has a leaf by her. So what do you think? What kind of engineer do you think she could be? I think she could be an environmental engineer, right? There's also one across the page that has a purple, like a vial. Maybe she's a chemical engineer. So chemical engineers actually do work with food. Yeah, kind of cool. Okay, so let's switch back over to here, and I'll show you how this works. Maybe you'll be able to see it. I'll just put my camera down like that. So that's a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to blow air into here, into this little straw. Okay. Now, can you see it moving around on the table? Oh, there it went. Well, like a true engineer, I will have to do a little bit more practice, but that's okay. That's something that maybe you will be able to figure out much faster than me. Yeah, that's exciting. I'd love to see them too. Okay, so thank you again for joining me for this week's Steam Storytime. We read a book about Rosie Reverie, the engineer. We talked about what engineers do. They solve problems. They make and dream about all the different things that you see in your house. And we learned how to make a hovercraft, a balloon hovercraft, kind of like what Rosie made in the book, but not quite a cheesecopter. If you can make a cheesecopter, I would love to see that. Yes. Okay, so lovely to see you all again. Thank you to Everly and Jack and Declan and Paige for joining me today. If you were only able to watch part of this, don't worry, we're going to upload this video to YouTube right after we finish today. And thank you again for joining. I love seeing you all virtually, of course, and I miss you very much, and hopefully we'll be able to see you soon. Okay? Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Go outside. It's supposed to be beautiful before the rain hits. And we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.